Welcome back. It's been an amazing run for the Pittsburgh Penguins in recent weeks. I'm wearing my Sidney Crosby jersey, Stanley Cup Final Patch 2016 on it. 2016 was the first year that I had a channel that talked about hockey, and I talked about the Stanley Cup champions being the Pittsburgh Penguins. And lately, they started looking like the Pittsburgh Penguins of 2016 and 2017. The thing is, I do wonder in the back of my mind if they've had their numbers inflated a bit by who they've played against. But again, you win the games that are presented to you when they're presented to you. So in this 10-game winning streak, they've now improved their record at home to 10-5-2. They've improved their road record to 10-3-3. Doesn't matter whether they're on the road or at home. They're pretty darn tough to beat either way. Against the Atlantic Division this season, they're 7-4-1. Against the Metro, they're 5-2. So they got a bunch of games against the Metro yet to play. Against the Central, they're 3-0-3, and against the Pacific, they're 5-2-1. They have a good record against every single division. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They have yet to play almost a third of the league. Arizona's, at the bottom of the league, so no problem there. Boston, Pittsburgh, there's a pretty good rivalry there. And there's a good portion of fans who might be fine with those teams just beating each other up. Carolina, of course, one of the top teams in the league this year. That's going to be quite the challenge for Pittsburgh. Columbus and Pittsburgh have some history. Columbus this year, though, has started to fall off at this point. Colorado, one of the best teams in the West right now. Detroit's been flirting with respectability and getting into the playoffs. LA, they're going to fix that problem before the end of the month. Nashville, good team that they played in the 2017 finals. They also haven't played the New York Rangers. Long history with the New York Rangers, and they haven't played Vegas yet. And Vegas, of course, one of the best teams in the West as well. So their schedule will get tougher at some point, but not really this month, although they have a lot of games yet to play this month. So their current points percentage is .686, which is really, really good. And in most regular seasons, that'd be right near or at the top. It ranks 7th in the East. People keep talking about power rankings. Well, they must be moving up. The thing is, they're moving up, yes, but the reality is that there are teams that are ahead of them, in points percentage, that are playing quite well. And now, if they were in the West, the interesting thing is their points percentage. So points like per game, and 500 being that magical NHL number that doesn't really mean a whole lot. Doesn't mean you've won half your games. The Avalanche are the only team in the West with a better points percentage than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's points percentage ranks 4th in the Metro. So we're going to have a pretty good team as the first wild card in the Metro division. And that's, at this point, how that's going to turn out. We'll see who it is, right? So they're in tough. You've got Washington, Carolina, Rangers, Pittsburgh. Any of these four could win the division. Any of these four could end up being the wild card. It's a tough call. Now, the last loss that was suffered by the Pittsburgh Penguins was the 1st of December. It's a loss against Edmonton 5-2. And I remember at that point, I think Pittsburgh was 18th or 19th on the power rankings. But even at that point, I'm like, you know what? But it's Pittsburgh, so they're going to end up making the playoffs. They're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. This is a team that hasn't won a round since 2018, but they're still going to be very dangerous when we get to playoff time. December 4th, they start their winning streak against Vancouver. Yeah, there you go. And what's interesting is it's the last loss in regulation Vancouver has suffered from then until now. So that was a game they won famously 4-1. They outscored the Canucks 3-1 in the second. The Fire Benning chants rained down in the building that night. Your 3 stars are Gensel, Crosby, and Letang. So the Penguins helped the Canucks finally say sayonara to both Benning as well as Green, which I think is interesting. I think it's very interesting that that's how things turned out. December 6th, they then go to Seattle and they win 6-1. It was 3-0 after the first, 5-1 after the second, and they cruise from there. The 3 stars in that one, Heinen, Gensel, and Carter. So you've got 2 wins over teams that are below 500, right? So that's where the caveat comes in of it's good they got the result. It's good they won by a combined score of 10-2 against 2 teams that are struggling. December 10th, they win on the road again against a team that's currently above the playoff line. So the red dot I put on here, that's for teams that are currently above the playoff line. They beat Washington 4-2. It was 1-0 after 1, 3-0 after 2, and they cruised from there. Your 3 stars included Kapanen, and Jarry for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tristan Jarry has had a fantastic bounce back from what happened in the playoffs against the Islanders last year. He did not look very good against the Islanders. Clearly, some work was done in the offseason, or maybe it was a confidence thing with goaltenders. A lot of the time, it can be a confidence issue. Then December 11th at home, they win against the Anaheim Ducks. So both halves of a back-to-back, they win. They win that game 1-0. Brock McGinn scores at 5 minutes and 12 seconds of the first. And at that point, you just pack up your jacket and go. Well, we won. Why? We just did. We won. Let's go beat the traffic. So the 3 stars in that one, DeSmith, McGinn, and Aston Reese. So again, goaltending prominent there. Jarry's the star one night, DeSmith's the star the next. December 14th, they won 5-2 against Montreal. This was a home game as well. It's 1-0 for Pittsburgh after 1 and 3-2 for Pittsburgh after 2. They're very good at getting the lead and play very well with it. 3 stars in that game, Rodriguez, Crosby, and Dumoulin. So Brian Dumoulin getting into the 3 stars in that one. And Evan Rodriguez, who's had a fantastic season. We'll talk about him again in this video. It really feels like a career year, doesn't it? So December 17th, they then won against Buffalo at home. Took till overtime in this case. It is the only overtime win they've needed in this 10-game winning streak, which does make it more impressive. So they win that one 3-2 in overtime. It was 1-0 in their favor after 1, 2-1 in their favor after 2. Carter scores the winner at 2:53 of overtime. Your 3 stars included Carter and Evan Rodriguez in there again. Then December 19th, the last game before suddenly they're on a break. They won 3-2 at New Jersey. They were ahead 1-0 after 1 and 2-1 after 2. So this is that pattern. Get the lead, keep the lead, expand the lead, and they do it well. 3 stars included Bluger and Matheson. So Teddy Bluger in the 3 stars in that one. Then there's a long break before January 2nd. They come back and they play. They won 8-5 in a very sloppy game against San Jose. San Jose's just sloppy games where they're at. It was 6-1 after 1. Now, it did become 6-5. It did become a little dicey, but they win at 8-5. Your 3 stars include Rodriguez and Brian Rust. Brian Rust coming back into the lineup and making a huge difference, as you'd see by the 3 stars in all 3 games he's played. January 5th, against a team above the playoff line, only the 3rd. And they've only played teams above the playoff line 3 times in the 10-game winning streak. They beat St. Louis 5-3. They did trail 3-2 after the 2nd, but the momentum had shifted, right? 3 stars in that one, Crosby, Rodriguez, and Rust. And really, these 3 have been fantastic throughout. And then last night's game, they won 6-2 at Philadelphia. They led 3-0 after 1, 3-1 after 2. So get the lead early. Don't allow a lot of goals in the first period. Pretty simple, and yet it is a recipe for success for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The 3 stars, Rust, Gensel, and Jarry. So Jarry shows up in the 3 stars a couple of times. DeSmith as well. And before the season started, we would have said that maybe the weakness for Pittsburgh was their goaltending. And yet here we are. Maybe their blue line. Their blue line is underrated, though. I will say the blue lines are underrated. Now, their upcoming schedule is interesting. Because, again, if we get into who's above and below the playoff line, I'm not going to say it's an easy schedule, but it's a winnable schedule. So they're at Dallas tomorrow. Then they're at Anaheim on the 11th. They go to LA on the 13th, San Jose on the 15th, and then Vegas on the 17th. I could see them winning all 4 games to start the road trip, and then I could see Vegas ending the winning streak. I could see that. Although Anaheim may be looking for revenge from what happened here, and Dallas could be tough. Dallas had a lot of time off. They won a game against Florida last night. They may end up feeling pretty good with that shootout win. We'll see. Then they come home. They play against Ottawa on the 20th, and then they go back on the road for one at Columbus. So they start, playing the teams that they haven't yet. That's how this schedule should work. Then they're at home against Winnipeg, Arizona, Seattle, Detroit, and LA. So that's the 23rd, 25th, 27th, 28th, and 30th. That is a pretty tough schedule. So it's not that the teams they're playing against are the toughest of the tough. Like Winnipeg, Arizona, Seattle, Detroit, LA, none of them are above the playoff line right now. But over that short of a period, it can be wearing, it can be tiring, and then you end up with injuries and things like that taking place. So for the Pittsburgh Penguins, the rest of this month is going to be interesting because of the fact the schedule is that condensed. But again, it's a winnable schedule, right? they can absolutely end up at a 700 points percentage, and they could end up being a team that all of a sudden they're first in the division. The interesting part to me, too, with Pittsburgh is this is a team that for years people have said, okay, this is going to be their demise, and it hasn't happened. They remind me of the Detroit Red Wings. The difference being the Detroit Red Wings, the last couple of years that they were above the playoff line, their results were kind of mediocre. I don't get that feeling with Pittsburgh. And we haven't even seen Malkin yet. So, over their last 10 games, Gensel, 10 goals and 6 assists. Jake Gensel playing the best hockey of his career. I really believe that. What's interesting is Gensel had a rough start to the season, and it was a slow start for Pittsburgh. And then Crosby comes back. Now, Crosby may have heard this rumor that Ovechkin's decided not to age and said, well, fine, I'm not going to age either then. 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points. So the rumors of the demise of Crosby as a top producer in the NHL, not so much. Brian Rust, 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. He's been absolutely fantastic through his games since his return, and just in general, really, really well played. Danton Heinen, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in the last 10 games he's played. And again, for Heinen, he is fitting in much better in Pittsburgh than I think he has in his last couple of stops. He has been very good and a solid replacement for Brandon Tanev. Rodriguez, 7 goals, 7 assists for 14 points in his last 10 games. Evan Rodriguez is having a career year. And when a guy's having his career year, you just kind of leave him be. The thing is, when Malkin comes back, he's not going to be a third-line center. So what do you do with Rodriguez? You want him to keep producing, but you need Malkin as well. And then there's Kapanen, 2 goals, 1 assist. If there's a player who they would say we'd like to see more from him, even during this winning streak, I would say Kapanen might be the guy, but you don't really complain during a 10-game winning streak. Aston Reese, 2 assists, Bluger, a goal and 2 assists, and Brock McGinn, 4 goals from the third line. And then there's a very competent fourth line there as well, that even though the points aren't necessarily impressive, they're not supposed to be. It's a fourth line, right? Then you look at the blue line, Brian Dumoulin, a goal and 5 assists for 6 points over their last 10 games. Underrated defenseman, absolutely. One of my favorite of the defensive defensemen in the National Hockey League. Letang, 14 assists in their last 10 games. 14. It's ridiculous. Letang thinking he's Adam Fox out there, right? Pettersson, 4 assists. Marino, 5 assists. Matheson with 2 goals and 3 assists. So he has 2 of the 3 goals for defensemen during this run. And Ruedel with 2 assists as well. Solid number 6 defenseman. In net, Jari's won 7 of the games. DeSmith's won 3. Jari, 7-0 with a 1.7 goals against, 930 save percentage. DeSmith, 3-0 with a 2.52 goals against and a 914 save percentage. So pretty excellent run overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know how far this goes. I don't know if we're going to see the Pittsburgh Penguins just keep this up. At some point you would think the schedule might get a little bit tough. They might have some setbacks. Or the one question mark is, so Malkin, Zucker, and Carter are the 3 that are currently out with injury, right? So the interesting part to me is that when Malkin comes back, when you've got Carter and Zucker in there, that's going to drop down guys like Heinen, Rodriguez, Kapanen. Basically, this second line becomes the third line, right? The third line would then become the fourth. Malkin, Zucker, and Carter, that could be your second line right there. So does that throw off the team's chemistry? That's the question mark I have with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's what we'll watch going forward. That, and when they start playing those tougher games and the tougher teams, how do they stack up? That's the question. But when you win 10 in a row at any point in time, there's a video about it, and here we are. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Is it sustainable? Is what Pittsburgh's doing right now, is that sustainable? Are they going to be able to maintain their spot right now? Are they going to continue to climb the standings? Or when will that speed bump hit? When are we going to see them, go through a 5 or 6 game losing streak, something like that? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.